Hello, everyone, and thank you for another episode with Empower with Nancy. So, I'm doing something a little different. I'm actually coming on with this podcast completely no makeup. It is audio, video. We'll be posting on YouTube across all of my social media. But I figured that, you know what the heck? I am just going to jump in and something that's been really weighing really heavy on my heart is why do entrepreneurs sometimes become the bottleneck in organizations? And I know for me, sometimes as an entrepreneur and owning my own coaching business, sometimes I am the bottleneck of some of the things that my team have like really great ideas. And maybe I say, you know what? No, let's not try that. Or that's just too much. And all that crazy stuff. And so today we're going to talk about why entrepreneurs become the bottleneck in an organization. And the more and more I think about this, even when I was in corporate America, sometimes as a leader, I wasn't the owner, but sometimes as a leader, I was the bottleneck. So I want to talk about something that might land a little closer to home to you. So if your business can't move unless you move, if decisions pile up waiting for your approval, and if your team, right, is constantly comes to you instead of thinking for themselves. And this is one of the things that, if you're going to enable your team, if you need for them to come to you for every little answer, right? If they feel stuck, they're unsure, and they can't think for themselves because they're so used to going to you for all the answers, that's not good leadership. You need to train and empower your team to make decisions for themselves. So if they do come to you, I'm not saying that they can't come to you and ask questions, but if they do come to you, you want to ask them, what do you think that you should do in this situation? And let them think through it. And if maybe they don't know the answer right away, but it makes them think so that you can help think alongside with them. And so the next time they have a question or they feel stuck, they're going to think about what you're going to ask them. So if your team is constantly comes to you instead of thinking for themselves, and if you are completely exhausted and frustrated, and why does everything still fall on me as the leader or the entrepreneur? And doesn't mean that you are a bad leader, but you may have become the bottleneck of your organization or of your team. And today we're going to talk about why this happens, not in more of like a surface level, but just delegate more kind of way. Does that make sense? But at the level that actually creates a change, because this isn't a skill issue that you have. It's a leadership identity issue that you have. And sometimes you don't even know that you have it. And so the reality most entrepreneurs miss is the truth of entrepreneurs that no one actually tells us. Why? If you do not have a coach or a mentor to help you either start a business, manage a business, run a company and such, no one's ever going to come and tell you that you are not being the leader that you probably should be because you're the leader. So if someone comes and tells you that you're not doing the right thing or you don't understand or you're not teaching me, what are they worried about? They're like, damn, I can't go to my, the owner or the CEO or CEO because I'm going to get fired or I'm going to get on the micromanage list. So you didn't become the bottleneck because you are controlling, right? You become the bottleneck because your business outgrew the version of leadership that you built. So the skills that helped you start being hands-on, you're solving the problems, you're moving fast, you're doing what others couldn't, are the same skills that now keep everything running through you. And no one prepares you for that transition because you are constantly on the go, running the business, reactionary, trying to get things done. So instead of involving how you lead, you carry more. You put and add more on your plate, more decisions, more responsibility, more pressure that weighs so darn heavy until leadership stops feeling powerful and starts feeling heavy. Does that make sense? So are you with me? Stay with me here because we're going to be covering a lot. Let's talk about the real reason is the ones that don't get said out loud is number one, is your identity is still tied to being needed, right? If you feel that your identity is still being tied to being needed 24/7. So maybe in the beginning, being needed felt super empowered. It felt really good. It meant you mattered, okay? It meant the business worked because of you. But over time, being needed turns into being what? Trapped. And then it's hard for you to get out of this trap. And everything flows through you. If things stall or get stuck when you step away or on vacation or on meetings, if your team waits until instead of deciding, right? This is a big one, is if your team waits until you're available or till you come back, either from vacation or at a meeting or what have you, they will wait because they don't feel empowered to make the decision. They feel scared to make that decision. And it doesn't mean that you are the cause. It means that they need to feel empowered. And you'll always hear me say this, empowered. I'll probably say it a million times, but it really truly means a lot that if your team doesn't feel empowered to make a decision and not scared to make the wrong decision, and if they make the wrong decision, what happens? They learn from that. Doesn't mean they're on the chopping block. And hopefully you as a leader, an entrepreneur, an owner, that if someone makes a mistake, that they learn from that mistake. You're teaching them from that mistake. And so that they don't make that mistake again. So number two is you trust yourself more than the system. So let's be honest. You move faster than anybody else. You see the darn gaps. You know what's good, what works, what doesn't work. So instead of slowing things down to create clarity, what do? You jump right into it. To what? I'm just going to solve the problem. I can get it done faster. You answer the question, you fix the problem, and guess what? You redo the work. And every time that you do that, you teach your team without saying the word. What is that word? Don't think. Just wait for me, right? You're telling your team, don't think, just wait for me. Wait for me to solve it. Wait for me to give you the guidance. Wait for me to just jump in and do it myself. Not because they're incapable, it's because the system rewards the dependency. That is your system as an entrepreneur or as a leader. Okay? So number three is you confuse control with responsibility. So many entrepreneurs say, I just care more. right? I don't want mistakes. And I'll step back once things stabilize. And when you tell your team and you have that mindset of that you care more, who says you care more? How do you know if your team cares more than you do? Or are they scared to make a mistake because you come down on them? Or maybe because you didn't teach them? It is okay to make a mistake, and that's how they learn, right? It's like raising kids. Do you think your kids, even you as a parent, are going to have all the answers? Absolutely not. But what's going to happen is your kids, sometimes as parents, you want to control the way your kids live their life, and as they grow up and you're telling them to do a certain thing in a certain way and it's the best way, and guess what happens? They don't learn from that. Sometimes they have to experience that to fall down and get back up, or maybe got hurt and then learn from that. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. There's no difference in being an entrepreneur or as a leader. Sometimes we feel as a leader that all your staff who's underneath you are like your kids, right? Does that make sense? And so underneath that fear, what occurs? Fear of things slipping, right? Fear of being disappointed, fear of letting go and being exposed. So control becomes the safety net because you're scared that if you make a mistake, people are going to know you made a mistake. And then it's just like this whole domino effect of things not going the way you want it to go. But control doesn't scale, right? What does it do? It literally suffocates. And that is not a good feeling. And I'm sure that you're probably saying, you know what, Nancy? How do you know like what's going on? Like how do you experience this? Like, who are you to say that this is the truth? I'm here to say because I am currently in the situation, right? I was in corporate America dealing with that over many, many, many years. And when I say current in the situation, I mean as an entrepreneur, I don't lead like controlling or anything. I'm not that bottleneck. Sometimes I am, and that is okay, but I learn from it. And sometimes when I figure like, you know what, Nancy, I'm the creation of this bottleneck or why this didn't work out. I'm taking that full responsibility. So you're still number 4, okay? You're still leading from the old version of you. And this is one that most people miss. The version of you who built the business had to be everywhere, right? The version of you who needs to scale a business must lead differently. Why? And many entrepreneurs change the business because they never consciously change who they've been as a leader. So they feel that as a leader, you're doing all the right things and they don't want to change because they don't want to come out of that comfort zone. So the pressure keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, even when the business is completely successful. And even if a business is successful, as you as a leader, as the owner, you feel that it's not good enough. You feel that because it's successful, that you're still coming down on yourself. Or you're looking at, I'm constantly having to change. I have to change. I have to change. I have to change in order to be exactly where you wanted to be. But why can't you just run a company? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, and become very clear with clarity of what it is that you want and master that and just grow as needed. Doesn't mean that every year that you're constantly have to change something completely out of the ordinary. what you want to do is at the end of every year, or actually, I would say not the end of every year, but every quarter, at the end of every quarter, what went well and what didn't. Do a SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for you as a leader and entrepreneur and for the company. And then look at those SWOT, or look at the patterns of what it is. And if you do that every quarter, you're going to start seeing what it is that you need to change. So the cost of being the bottleneck is, being the bottleneck costs you what? It costs you time, it costs you energy, it costs you strategic thinking, and it costs you creativity. It costs you to not think ahead. It costs you to think and not think about what can you do differently. And eventually, what happens? You lose yourself. You lose control. It creates burnout. It creates frustration within yourself, within your company, within your team. So a business can't operate without you. And a leader, like leadership, loneliness, no one sees, is within yourself. Do you ever think about leadership loneliness? Sometimes we feel as leaders and owners, we feel we're on our own island, and you don't have per se that business partner, right? And sometimes, like with a lot of my clients I work with businesses, they may not have a COO. Usually a CEO and a COO are working, side by side to running a company. They're doing it all on their own. Maybe they have their spouse that's kind of helping them, but it's different, right? And that's where a lot of the businesses and clients that I work with, I coach, is I'm coaching the owners, right? I am helping them make decisions within their company, because I'm a coach that's a person from the outside looking in. I'm not working for them. I'm not in the weeds. And that's why it's just so powerful to possibly, for you entrepreneurs out there, even if you're in a high executive leadership position, to bring in a coach to assist you. I did that when I was in corporate America. I brought in and hired a phenomenal coach to help with all of us executives. And because there was a lot of bottleneck, there was a lot of animosity, there was a lot of friction, there was a lot of not getting along with one another. Not all leaders were on the same page. It was kind of a little disastrous until I came in and identified it. Things started to get better. And then I said, okay, instead of always hearing it from me, let's bring a coach from the outside. And then things just smoothed out. Now, some people didn't like it because they felt like, oh, bringing someone in from the outside, they don't know anything what goes on. Yes, they do, because that is what their specialty is. And the shift starts to change everything when you identify what were the bottlenecks. So do that self-reflection for you. Do the SWOT for yourself. Do a SWOT for your business. And so when that shift changes, right? So what actually changes is what? Identify what those patterns are. Maybe it's not the system. It doesn't mean that you have to hire someone else. It doesn't mean that you have to delegate more. The real shift is from being the hero that you are to becoming the actual architect of your business. From doing what? Solving, answering questions instead of asking. So it's more like you go from creating and doing everything to solving and designing a plan of, instead of you solving it, what are you doing moving forward? Instead of you answering the questions, you're having your team ask, like, what would you do? Instead of controlling the situation, you're helping them create clarity. Instead of being needed, it's being trusted. You are trusting your team and empowering your team to do what it is that they feel is best. And if they're unsure, it is okay to ask. So this requires a different leadership, outcome. You stop rescuing. You allow others to struggle just enough to grow, right? You build thinking into what? The culture. Do you know, instead of your team going to you for everything, do you know how powerful you're building your culture? Let me tell you, it will be on fire as long as you position it the right way. And then you separate your worth from your involvement. And then it allows you to grow the company instead of feeling that you're constantly should be in the weeds. This is the work most entrepreneurs avoid, believe it or not, because it requires letting go of the identity that once kept you safe, right? You do not have to be constantly in control. So I want to leave you with one question. If you stepped away for just 30 days, you're probably saying, Nancy, like, what the hell, 30 days? There's absolutely no way. Like, literally, step away for 30 days. What would actually happen? What will break? What will work? Like, think about that. And what would that tell you about how you're leading today? Right? Without any judgment. It's just more of awareness for you as an entrepreneur or an executive. Awareness is where leadership power returns. Because as a leader, as an entrepreneur, if you step away, if you're gone on vacation, you're traveling, or wherever it is, and your company or your department can't run without you, you're doing something wrong. Doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're doing something wrong. And anything that we do is fixable. It truly is, as long as you believe that it's fixable. It should be a well-oiled machine. I always like to say it's like going to In-N-Out. How simple is In-N-Out's menu? Like, they don't make mistakes. Well, everyone makes mistakes, but honestly, they are so structured. It literally In-N-Out. You go through the drive-through, you have this simple menu. You know exactly what it is that you want. You create that order, and then you get that order. Why? Is because they are well trained, they are empowered, and any leader, right? You need to empower your managers to feel as though that they are running this company as though it's their own. And then the people underneath them should be an extension of you as a leader. And if you bring that clarity within your company and you're very consistent with that, I promise you, you will have a well-oiled machine. If this episode really, like you really learned, steered something, in your mind that this resonated with you, please share it with a friend. I am trying to really continue to grow my podcast, grow my YouTube. A lot of like these videos I put on YouTube. I love to educate all of my listeners. I'm so very grateful with all of my listeners. Please give me a review, thumbs up, help me grow my audience and my podcast. Right now, I am at a 5 star. I've been at a 5 star for many years, so I'm very grateful for that. But I just do, I come on and do podcasts because I really, really, truly enjoy educating. And honestly, everyone, I'm educating you based off of my own true experience. A business that you've built is asking you to become a different kind of leader. And once you identify that, it is okay. And this is what we do here at Empowerment Pathways. I've helped hundreds of companies. I've built several multi-billion dollar businesses, a few of them. I don't want to say several, a few of them. And this is something I'm very passionate about. So if you are interested in learning more about what Empowerment Pathways can do to help you, you know where to find me. I am on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, uh, Facebook, Empower with Nancy. My website is Empower with Nancy. And I look forward to continuing to support and educate all of you. And I, again, thank you so, so much for entrusting me and listening to me. And again, always remember, if you're ready to stop being the bottleneck, build a team that thinks and owns like for themselves and lead with clarity instead of exhaustion, instead of burnout. And remember that you have full control of the will. With gratitude, Nancy.